Yes, we'll be talking about migrating from Web App Builder to Experience Builder. Obviously, as far as ESRI timelines go, this is something that's in front of everybody. If you haven't made that change yet, hopefully you get a little bit of information out of here to understand what we went through to make this migration, some of the things that benefited us through the migration, how we made it work, and what we're seeing coming out of it on the now that's being implemented. Okay. Quick agenda here. We'll talk a little bit about GIS at Gateway, the migration timelines and the drivers behind making this transition. We'll talk about our needs assessment process, then the development of the applications and Experience Builder. If we have time, we'll try to get some live examples up for you as well. So GIS at Gateway, we've been using GIS since the early 90s. Before I was there, as mentioned, I started in 2003. But through the 90s and the early 2000s, things were not changing that much, obviously, right? It was ArcGIS desktop, coverages, shape files, all those kind of prehistoric almost type file formats. And for the most part, the staff consisted of a couple GIS people and mostly CAD technicians. Those are sort of the big items to think about from back then. Currently, it's its own GIS service, so we've grown significantly since then. We are fully integrated with ArcGIS Pro and ArcGIS Online. Internally, our ArcGIS organization has over 100 members actively using the GIS on a daily basis. So we have close to 50% utilization across the company that get in and use our GIS. So it's a very high utilization within the company itself that really use and value the GIS information, which I think is great. From a staff standpoint, we have 6 resources that are comprised of GIS techs and analysts. We have 3 project managers. We have an application developer, more on the front end and sort of customizable type things that we provide to clients, and then 1 GIS administrator to sort of help keep everything together. And we are a silver level ESRI partner as well. So I want to jump into the migration timelines. So Online was released back in 2012. Web App Builder, which is what we used before Experience Builder, was released in 2014, so we got involved in that pretty early. And then with Experience Builder being released in 2020, we very quickly started to try to understand what it can do, how it works, how we can improve what we're currently doing using Experience Builder. And then, in the last couple of years, we've seen that Web App Builder is retiring in 2026. So our initiative to jump on this early in the early 2020s, I think, is very beneficial to how we were able to migrate from Web App Builder to Experience Builder. I do want to mention that on the Web App Builder piece, it was kind of interesting going from desktop to online and then implementing Web App Builder. Back then, when that was being completed, there was probably about 70% or so of the design and implementation being handled from the engineering side, and then a lot less input from the GIS side, which is kind of interesting. That completely reversed course on the Experience Builder implementation, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit on later on down the presentation. So some of the drivers to make this migration from Web App Builder to Experience Builder. From a GIS standpoint, the GIS professionals in the company, there's certainly a lot of interest of how we can move the technology forward, right? We're all kind of geeks when it comes to GIS technology, so we were kind of interested in seeing what this thing can do, what we can do from a visual standpoint to sort of impress the other coworkers and just build some interest across the company to make this move. Learning is a big part of Gateway's culture, so we're always trying to learn new things and the latest and greatest technology out there to help us. So I think we're all very eager to learn more and more about it. Obviously, from a business standpoint, we wanted to expand our services and stay current with the technology, so that was a piece of it as well. And then the company belief in advancing GIS technology, I think we have a benefit at Gateway where from the very top to the very bottom, everyone is really in the know of what kind of benefit the company can see by focusing on GIS technology. We do feel it's one of our biggest growth areas that we have in front of us. So everyone is very much on board with moving the technology forward. And then finally, there's obviously the ESRI requirements saying that they're getting rid of Web App Builder, so we have to make the move anyway. So that's certainly a driver as well. But the Web App Builder side, we're going to talk a little bit about our applications as they deal with sewers. But I want everyone to kind of think about, we're just dealing with assets. It could be pipelines, it could be roads, it could be signs. we're focusing on sewers and just the way we're managing those sewer assets using these applications. But the Web App Builder, when this first came out, everybody was really excited about it. But what we found is, a user could click on a pipe here. One of the engineers in the company could click on a pipe to find, over on the right side here, videos of CCTV inspections of that pipe to understand the condition of the pipe. But really the only way they could find the different inspections on that pipe is clicking through these little arrows that are on the pop-up to find the right inspection they're looking for. So they thought it was great, but from a GIS standpoint, we're kind of saying, like, there's got to be ways to make this better. So that was certainly in the front of our mind when we were moving over to Experience Builder, trying to pick up those little things that we're noticing and then hearing some feedback from the users of how we can make this thing better. So we took all that data with us as we started talking about the migration. So we started with a needs assessment from a Web App Builder and moving to Experience Builder. From a GIS standpoint, we sort of sat down and said, all right, we have to consider a couple things. One, we have a lot of people that use the GIS, so we don't want to just throw something that's completely foreign and unfamiliar to them. So we wanted to try to replicate the functionality as much as we could, but then also find ways to improve workflows that they're currently using with those applications. Obviously, with technology, you hear a lot of, it's just the way we've always done it, so we try to understand where those sort of issues are in the process and think of ways to improve it without making it completely a different process they have to relearn. So part of that deals with some of the actions and things like that you can do in Experience Builder, setting actions for relationships as opposed to having an actual related feature class in a database. Different ways you can do that with Experience Builder that make it very simple, but then add the functionality within the application itself. So we really just wanted to develop an application that improved efficiency for the user experience. So there's a number of things here we really focused on in our needs assessment. I've highlighted in orange or gold, whatever that is, a couple of them that I think are worth noting in the presentation here. So we'll go through those individually. But confirmed necessities. So starting out, we just wanted to get some feedback from the everyday users of these applications and just talk about what it is, like their core requirements for these applications. So things like reviewing CCTV inspections so that we can see the condition of the pipe and then let the municipalities that we represent know what the recommended repairs are going to be based on those inspections. Need to be able to track progress of the assets. So when was it last worked on? When was it repaired? When's the next inspection date? That kind of stuff. Propose repairs within the application. So if we see a bad defect, being able to actually mark that in a database graphically and in the database itself so that we can easily find that information. And then just that kind of ties in with just seeing the history of the work completed on the asset. Just a really easy way to find that. And then a big one was combining a bunch of apps into one. The way it was before, we had about 4 or 5 different apps in Web App Builder to really kind of handle this asset management piece for sewers, and we said, let's find a way that we can take that all down to one application and make it one centralized interface for our users. So we started to assess the workflows, and then from a GIS standpoint, from our expertise, we wanted to establish recommendations and provide those to the users. So we sat down with them and broke down the process of all the individual tasks that they use these applications for. Understand the purpose of these tasks, really what the goal is of what they're trying to accomplish. And then we would go through and try to see if we can eliminate anything that really isn't necessary, or maybe it's more complex than it needs to be. I try to get away from it's the way we've always done it type mentality. And then through that, on the GIS side, we're able to recommend new tools and things like that we are aware of as GIS professionals in the Experience Builder that the GIS users or the engineers may not know about. So trying to find ways to show them there's different efficiencies we can provide within the new application. Certain things like that are going from we had a tracking spreadsheet of all the inspections that came in over a certain year for all the different municipalities that we're representing. And it was just a big spreadsheet that gets pretty cumbersome to use over time. So we're able to condense that down to a survey 1, 2, 3 type environment in the application where it gets entered to say, here's a database of inspections that just came in. The status right now is we need to process it, get into the GIS, then that gets updated to move it to engineer review, that kind of thing. So everybody can quickly see the status of all the different inspections that we're receiving. So through this process then, as we're coming up with these recommendations, the GIS team has to focus on, I think, demoing some of these capabilities and trying to get buy-in from the users, right? Instead of just giving them something and say, here, this is what you're going to use, this is the way you're supposed to do it. We like to get their feedback, give them ideas, and then just get their buy-in from the demos that we're putting together. It just helps with the transition. It keeps everybody a little more, I guess, friendly on the migration itself. So then we moved on to improved capabilities and added functionality. So once we sort of had the core functionality in the application, we said, what can we do to improve capabilities beyond this? So we started to integrate dashboards into the application itself, which all the engineers and really non-GIS professionals got very geeked about, being able to see the metrics of things and all that kind of stuff. They were very excited about that. Being able to bring in what we call defect location on the pipes. This is some information we get through the inspection process that actually pinpoints the locations of where there's issues on the pipes. That data typically wasn't used before in the old applications, but we're able to find use for it now and make it visual for them so they can really see all the different items on a specific pipe, segment of pipe, and then be able to use that to better understand where they need to do some repairs. So that was a big one for them. And then even just simple things, user experience type items like filters that get triggered by certain things you click on the map, where you click on a pipe and then all kind of data changes on lists that give you sort of the history of what's going on that pipe, things that they weren't able to do previously. But showing them that, educating them on it, they start to open their eyes and go, oh, wow, that's great. Now can you do this or this or this? And then the ideas start flowing from them to us, and now we're on the same page now. We're all starting to make this thing a little better. So you'll hear me say this a couple times, but it continues down the road with more and more recommendations and demo to get buy-in from the actual users there. So then as we got further and further into the migration and really into the design of this, we wanted to make sure we had a place to say, okay, so as you're using this, there might be things that just pop up, right, that we weren't aware of, or maybe you didn't think about or we didn't think about. So we want to have a way to understand what those are and then just present solutions as they sort of pop up. So basically just as they go through their process, they would come up with something and say, hey, you know what, when we're looking at these CCTV inspections, there's defects that have various grades on them. It would be great if we had a way to just say, hey, these defects are really bad. We have to jump on these right now. So we built into the application a defect report using Notebook that looks at these inspection databases and then spits out an email to various people to say, here's a level 5 defect, here's a level 4 defect, that kind of stuff with the segment ID that it's on for the pipe ID. The distance from the beginning of the pipe to where that defect is, so they understand where it sits on the pipe, and it gives them something to look at immediately and go, okay, let's jump on this right now, figure out what the repair is going to be, then they can start putting that information into the GIS itself. So again, this all comes from recommendations from GIS staff by getting feedback, providing demos, and getting the buy-in to the users. So a big piece of this, I think, is just being very, very open to feedback. I always say from a GIS standpoint, right, we're the experts in understanding the GIS technology and how all that works, but we kind of have to be educated in what the end users are doing also. So it's not just understanding GIS and the technology, it's understanding what the engineers are doing, what their processes are, and kind of trying to balance both of those types of things. So we really have to be open to feedback and understand what the end users are doing. Okay, so I'm going to flip it over to Becca Cooper here to talk about some of the things we've done on the data editing options within the experience.
So as we were going through this, working with end users and clients, it was pretty clear that we were going to be making this application for a lot of non-GIS users. So we wanted to make sure that it was user-friendly, it was easy to understand, and it wasn't this daunting task to go and update their GIS data. So we were able to embed some widgets and Survey 123 forms in there to make it a lot easier for them to update that data. Because as non-GIS resources and users, you go into a database and you see hundreds or thousands of records and they're just like, what am I doing? I'm gonna mess something up, I don't wanna use this, I never wanna use this again. So we wanted to make sure that it was a lot easier to swallow for them, the idea of, you know, updating this GIS data, and that they weren't gonna mess it up. So we also wanted to focus on improvements. You know, how could we improve it? How could we really use the improvements as sort of leverage to get everybody on board for this transition? You know, it was going to happen. It was going to happen anyway. So what could we show them that was really going to impress them. And the one thing that we really thought was cool to show them was that you could embed different application styles and widgets to show more information about the map that you're viewing. It's more than just the map. It's more than just the line. It's more than just the points. There's so much data involved in the database and those survey forms that they're populating that we could show dynamically as soon as you open the application. Another thing that we really liked was that you could either focus it as a map-based view, as you can see on the top, or just table-based, just to show the data in the bottom, depending on what that end user was going to want to see and how they were going to utilize the application. Another way that we incorporated a lot more data into just one link was by embedding dashboards in there to show the real-time data visualization. So if someone was out in the field collecting data on a tree study or doing a wetland study or outfall inspections, whatever it may be, as soon as it's in there, as soon as it's populated, you can see all that live data. Or as soon as a CCTV record is put in, you can see all that live data. And that's what dashboards were great for. But with the application, we were able to embed all of those into the one link, the one URL. It's one less favorite tab in your browser that you have to click and say, oh, that was the wrong one. Nope, that's the wrong one. So one favorite link, good to go. Another thing that we incorporated were these Survey 123 feature reports for detailed data export. So while they're transitioning to this new application, we did want to maintain consistency. We wanted to make sure that it worked the same way as the old web app did, and we wanted to make sure that maybe the forms that they were using to track their data as like hard copy forms looked the same. They could still print the data out automatically in the same format that they're used to seeing in their hard copy forms if they have to, keep records in a filing cabinet for legal reasons or whatever that may be. We were also able to embed additional charts and tables within the experience so that if there were things that they only needed to see statistical data on or as a table, that was still an option without having, once again, another link for them to keep track of. Another consideration was automation and storage. So with a lot of these more increased GIS actions and data inputting, we wanted to consider that automation. Like Ryan mentioned, we want to send out reports, we want to send out alerts, notifications. So we investigated integrating third-party tools such as Power Automate and Make, as well as Python scripting for those data processes to give us that option to have the automated report and notifications. The other one was storage considerations. Once again, you're putting more info into GIS. You're storing your videos in GIS. You're storing your photos, your PDFs, your whatever you're doing. There's so much more data, and that's what's great about it is you can store all that stuff, but then you have to consider the storage of that. So based on the needs of our end user, we looked at AGOL hosting versus third parties such as SharePoint, AWS, and the decision on where to store that was dependent fully on factors like cost, security, and accessibility that our end users needed. And then we were able to tailor that to best meet the needs of the application and our end users. So like I mentioned, we wanted to make sure that this was an easy transition. So we wanted to have a clean, easy-to-use interface. We wanted it to be intuitive, and we didn't want it to feel like you were going through this complex data mapping system. We wanted it to feel like a website, easy to use, easy to understand, while maintaining the consistency that users were used to seeing in the original web apps. So we were able to use the customizable layouts for the different end user types, whether they were engineering resources or municipal officials, whatever their needs were, we were able to tailor it to be user-friendly and show them all the information that they wanted to see and that they needed to see. So it wasn't too much or too little based on those needs. I'm going to pass it back over to Ryan just to kind of summarize.
All right, thank you, Rebekah. So this portion we're talking about designing for growth. As we made this migration, we wanted to think about, as we're working through this process, what can we do to make sure that this is something that's sustainable and just easy to maintain over time. So one of the things we really wanted to focus on is let's keep it as simple as we can from a platform standpoint, and let's just stick with ArcGIS Online, right? Our company is very integrated into that, so let's see what we can do with using the new technology from ESRI to keep this as one platform in our online organization. And then just being able to take some of the functionality of the previous applications and really not dumb it down, just make it more easy for people to use and get into. Being able to take those multiple applications and turn them into more or less modules within Experience Builder, I think helped us to accomplish that and make it one spot, very simple for people to use. Looks more like a website type interface than a heavy duty GIS application, which I think is very important for the end users there. So to summarize, Experience Builder has allowed us to be more flexible in our workflows, as well as improve the workflows and really streamline the existing processes we have in place for a lot of our work on these sewers. Some of the key considerations during our migration are, as we mentioned, streamline the workflows, be prepared from a GIS standpoint, be prepared as a professional to provide insight to the new capabilities and functionality. We're the ones with the answers at the start of it, and we have to educate the end users of how they can use this technology and sort of make things a better experience for them. Utilizing interface options that provide a shorter learning curve, right? No one really likes to migrate from one application to another because of the learning curve issues and things like that. So anything you can do to shorten that and really make it easier for them, I think is a huge plus. Encouraging feedback so they feel like they're part of the team. The end users understand that you're there just to help them. You're not trying to be like the person saying you have to use this and here's what you have to do and I'm the only one that knows how to do it and I built it for you. We want to try to get as much feedback as we can so they feel like they're part of the team. And then finally, being fully supported from ESRI, both from the partner level and just having the ESRI staff that really can help you with the single platform of ArcGIS Online and Experience Builder, I think is a huge help too. So it keeps it very much an easy to maintain application. So as far as gateway success for this migration and how it's helped us, again, the corporate support, I heard that a couple of times from the panels this morning of trying to be able to educate leadership of the company higher and higher of what we can and can't do with GIS. But we're lucky enough to have an organization that very much, the entire corporation does support the GIS technology. So that very much helped us in this migration. Early planning and adoption, so staying in tune with what ESRI is doing, the technology is doing from a standpoint of when things are being retired and when the new things are coming out and transition timelines. We very early got onto the Experience Builder application just to learn about it. We probably spent a year or so just trying to understand it, what we can do with it before we really started talking to end users. So being able to get into it early and then start planning out your migration, I think is very much helps the success of the project. The general staff and interest in progressing and learning. Again, I credit our GIS team in our company to really help with this. They're the ones that went out and were talking to the end users about, hey, we can do this, and you got to see this new thing. It's going to be great. You mentioned this is an issue. I think we have a way to solve that for you. We'll give you a demo of it. That kind of stuff, I think, is great to kind of build the enthusiasm with it. And then finally, just focusing on the end user needs, so that they have something that is built for their uses, for their processes. I think just helps tremendously. So I think we have a couple minutes here, so I'm going to try to just jump in and just give you a couple examples of what we've done with Experience Builder. We have some live links here, crossing my fingers that everything works. But the web app builder, we have 4 applications here that our engineers were using in-house to manage these assets. I think there was actually probably 5 or 6 total when you really get into it. We turned everything into one particular asset manager here, and I think this link is actually broken, so I do want to get to the internet here. See if I can do that somehow. Mark?
It won't launch the link from there?
So I was going to use this one, that link's broke. I need to use a different one.
Okay. Minimize this. And just go here.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
And then just
Yep, we're all good there.
your address.
Perfect.
And then you'll just have to drag it off to the side. Yeah, make a second screen.
Make a second screen, what do you mean?
It's on, that is the screen that it's on.
You'll just drag it over.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. You're just gonna have to crane your neck.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, look at that. I feel like a weather person looking at a side screen while I'm doing this. All right, so we want... I probably should have waited to move this screen over. Right there, right? We'll play button. Okay. So this experience here really shows all the different things that we're able to incorporate, almost modules within one application. So this is showing the sanitary sewers of Mount Lebanon here, and we have obviously the visual with the mapping, and there's different layers that show up as we zoom in, but you can see the pipes, and then there's different layers on there that show if something's been CCTV'd and repairs that have been proposed or completed on there. And then what we're able to do, which we couldn't do in Web App Builder, is if we go to sewer pipes, we have all 6,000 pipes or so that are in the system in here, and the engineers, let me go to my notes here real quick. The engineers can look for a certain pipe that might be of critical need. Yeah, right. It pops up for us, and we can select that pipe. The map zooms for us, and then we can click on CCTV, and it's taken about, I think there's about 25,000 different records of CCTV inspections across the entire municipality, and it filters this list down to the 5 that are pertinent to that particular pipe. So the engineers can quickly see the history of any kind of CCTV work that was done on this, as well as being able to say, hey, let's take a look at one of these videos. It pops up to a screen that's inside the application. This would have probably been a separate application in Web App Builder, and they can sit here and watch this video. And we have defects on the side over here that they can click on one of these, and it'll flash on the map as far as where that defect actually is. So if there's one, I think there's one on here, it's about 251 feet in. I don't have a good view of it from here, but they can then scan through this video to get to the proper footage right there, and they'll be able to, that ties with the distances over here, and they can see what the issue is and then begin to propose repairs on this pipe. So it just gives them a lot more information kind of upfront that they can use here. And then the engineers also can go through these fields and update the inspections to latest status or whatever they might need to do that then tie into different metrics and dashboards, things like that. So a lot of information for them. And I mentioned the arrow over there, Rebekah.
What are you looking for?
There's a, no, should be an arrow over there.
Yep, right there.
Nice. So this shows just different stats about some of the data that's in there. I mentioned the submission tracking. So this is from a survey 123 that's tied into the application. So when something comes in from one of the inspection contractors, we process it, put it into the GIS. It gets marked as ready to be uploaded, so the GIS technicians can upload it into the system. Then once that's done, it gets marked as ready for review. That notifies the engineers that this one's ready for you guys to look at and figure out what you need to do from a repair standpoint. They can mark things as needs a map update or needs this or that, and then we get notified of what needs to happen. So it's all color-coded based on the status of that, just to provide some visuals. We do have some dashboards on here that help us stay in line with the annual programs that we have as far as these inspection processes. So there's 102,000, almost 103,000 feet of proposed sanitary sewer to be done this year. We've received about 60,000, so they got some work to do. Of that, we're good on about 55,000. We're going to send back 1,600 feet that needs to be re-CCTV'd for certain purposes. So just a lot of information for our engineers there that we were able to build into one application. We have one other one that I know we're kind of at the end of time here, so I don't want to show it, but it's for GISP tracking. We're able to put in the different activities and things like that we're doing from a GISP standpoint so that we can make sure we track our credits. As a GISP, I will honestly say that the worst part about being a GISP is finding the documentation the day before my renewal was due. So we built an experience to help us do that, where we can open a survey, put in the activity, mark it as, say, researching, meaning I know it's going to happen this year, I just want to learn more about it. I can mark it as scheduled, meaning I registered for it, completed when I'm done, and it calculates my points for me and gives me this nice little graph of where things are. So I can pretty much look at that and go, okay, here's what I have to do still, or I'm good. I can start to do my renewal. So
Are you sharing that one?
I can bring it up if you
Well, I
want.
mean, like, are you sharing it with everybody so we can all track?
Oh.
We could do that.
Yeah.
We could do that. We could talk about it. Absolutely. Yeah, sure.
We'll send you a bill.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so it's stuff like that I think on the GIS side is really cool, just being able to use the technology, not just for client-facing stuff, but our own professional development, even things in our company we're using internally for GIS applications for seating charts and things like that. So the Experience Builder has really opened up a lot of doors for us externally and internally. So with that, I'm a couple minutes over.
Do you have any questions, couple questions before we head to our first break?